This is it. I want to be sure to talk in the phone.
I'm going to push him forward if he doesn't.
Just talking in the damn mic, right? What's that? See all these.
All kinds of people taping you. Be careful.
I saw all these recording devices, and we're going to do the same thing bad about Carol. Okay. It is February the 22nd, and I've got 5:30, so I will call the February meeting of the BAR to order. Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll? Here.
Paul Moscotti. Here. Sandra York. Dr. Gail Costin. Here. John Miles. And Cindy Nord.
Here.
Okay, based on the roll call, I do declare that we have a quorum. If you would also, the notification of the agenda, I assume, has been posted according to state law.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much. I've also had several requests for all the members to speak into the microphone, so make sure everybody can hear what we do.
And I started out by not speaking in the microphone.
I understand that. So.
I do apologize.
Okay. All right, you have the agenda in front of you. If you would please look at it and either make a motion to accept or amend.
So move.
All right, there's a motion to accept.
Second.
And there is a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. If we would, let's stand, please. The American flag is behind us, and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pause just for a minute. We have another member coming in to join us, Mr. Miles. If you would, just amend the roll call, please. Reflect. Okay, you have been sent the minutes, so if you would look at the minutes and, again, approve to either as presented or amend. These minutes are from the January the 18th meeting.
Recommend the minutes be approved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have one action item tonight, and that is 2022-01 for COA for 209 Blythewood Road. And I think Mr. Christopher Wood is with us tonight, and if you would please step forward with your presentation. Nice to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
If you would just proceed and tell us about the building and the architectural features, please.
Certainly. So we are proposing a new Taco Bell over on Blythewood Road in what I would probably characterize as the restaurant district of the road, in the midst of the other restaurants, Wendy's, Zaxby's, KFC. It is an all-brick building with a hardy panel tower on the corner that has the corporate logo upon it. The brick colors are represented in the images behind you, and I've also brought some actual samples of those bricks with me.
That's a better representation of what sometimes the colors don't transfer correctly when you've the printing process. So these are the actual colors themselves.
These are indeed, yes. These are the specified bricks from the manufacturer. We have gone with a very clean and straightforward design. We've actually removed the patio and outdoor seating from the front of it to meet the requirements and match the character of the area. As noted, the entire building is clad. The full depth brick facade wraps around the entire building, including the freezer cooler unit on the back. Believe that, as simple and straightforward as the building is, I hope that describes it.
Go back one slide, please. Sure. Our architectural advisor asked us to look into it. It looks like the brick is like a grid pattern. I don't know if that's in the printing process, but it looks like they're individual panels.
The intent of the design is a standard running bond. Any deviation from that in the rendering would, in fact, be just a graphic quirk of the rendering process.
Mr. Wood, you said the tower is the hardy plank?
Hardy panel, yes. Painted.
Well, panel, are you talking about a smooth? Is a smooth panel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about the entrance? What is that material? The dark material?
That is also a hardy panel. It is painted cyberspace gray from Sherwin-Williams as versus the fiery brown, which was selected to match the prototype of the Taco Bell tower. It was originally a metal panel, but we have switched that out in order to meet the requirements.
Hardy panels are just a 4x8 panel?
They're sold in that. I believe that we will be trimming them down a little bit to get a slightly narrower joint pattern on the tower.
I have a front-on photo of that entrance with the dark surround.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Do you have a photograph?
The elevation should be here on right there.
But do you have one face on to that dark doorway? Or?
Dr. Costin, you can, is that what you're asking about?
Thank you.
Not to belabor the point, I'm still trying to get a grip. How many widths of panels make up one elevation of your, roughly? Is it 3? Is it?
I believe that we have 4 in our details.
That's just a butt joint?
Yes. It should be fairly subtle visually when it's built. There's not a reveal. And certainly no highlight colors or any...
And that's a detail that you've been using at all your stores or all your restaurants?
Yes.
Does it weather well with the joints just butted?
That is my understanding. There is a backup detail that waterproofs it fairly effectively. If I remember correctly, I do believe there's a sealant at that joint that so far they've had success with, yes.
So it butts vertically but also horizontally?
Yes.
My concern would be if those edges start to ravel and what that starts to look like over time. That's my concern.
Yeah, I actually would agree with you there. I'm a little newer to this particular Taco Bell project. The detail used uses an EPDM backing that actually kind of closes off that particular joint, and combined with the sealant and the structure behind it, as I've said, they've been happy with it.
The hardy panel sometimes is used, you should use for board and batten effect. But in those cases, there is a batten that does cover the seam.
Right.
Yeah, so it's essentially the same material that's used in a board and batten.
Correct. And
it does have
in a board and batten
has a batten.
application, the batten is covering the seam.
Covers the seam, that's correct.
And what I was getting at, there's a couple widths, 4 widths maybe, a board across one face. But I mean, if you're doing it elsewhere and it's not giving you trouble, so it doesn't give us trouble here.
Any questions?
I don't.
Hey, it's so nice to have you with us. You're just returning from Washington, D.C., so we're glad you could make it. So
I'm happy to be here in the living.
You're in a better place.
It took a lot to straighten out D.C.
No doubt. Do you have any questions of the applicant, Mr. Bailey?
Not at this point.
Mr. Miles? Talk to us a little bit about, if you would, the dumpster enclosure. Is it built out of the same material?
I should be able to rattle that answer off very confidently. I would have to dig into the details a little more closely myself.
That's typically a requirement of the BAR, that the dumpster enclosure does mimic the structure itself.
Noted.
Okay. Any other question of the applicant?
I would just ask, are you required to have any drainage retention? See a pond or anything? Yes. No?
Yes, please come forward and state your name for the record.
I'm Bob Lash. I'm Bob Lash. I'm with Flynn Restaurant Group, the franchisee of Taco Bell. So I can address some of these. The dumpster enclosure will be the same materials. And the detention, we're adding to the detention that is with Zaxby's currently. So we're right-sizing it for both of our properties, and so there'll be a shared detention between both properties.
That's the one that's currently behind the existing Zaxby's.
Correct. Right. But it'll extend to to the east, over behind our property, and then it'll be just one larger detention pond.
So you're expanding their detention?
Correct.
To accommodate yours?
Yeah, and that was already planned when this whole development was kind of planned by Stan.
Landscaping. Yes, please come forward. Mm-hmm.
My name's Stan Hark. I'm the developer, and I can answer your detention pond because when I bought the piece of property from BB&T, which I think Mr. Sharp bought it from another family, there is a catch basin that runs down Creech Road, and so this piece, along with the other piece that Taco Bell is using about 60% of, there is a drainage easement that we have, and that has been approved by Richland County.
Great.
So I think that answers the drainage issue.
Great, thanks.
I just didn't see any. It's a little It was a little complicated because when we built the Zaxby's, we made sure that Zaxby's had the depth to get to the catch basin, and then we could tie in this piece by expanding their detention pond, which would flow to a smaller, unfortunately, I think it's only a 15-inch pipe that runs down Creech Road to that swampy area. I don't know what y'all call it, but it's down there.
Thanks. Has the town looked at the landscaping plan and the curb cut as far as meeting the requirements?
Mr. Chair, yes, we have looked at the landscape plan. We do have probably some adjustments as far as plant selection on that because none of them are native. But as far as placement and quantity and size, it meets the ordinance.
Curb cut, I guess, has been granted?
I don't know. I mean, that's from DOT. I don't know the status of that. They haven't submitted a full site plan submittal yet. They just provided this as part of the submittal for them.
And the monument sign out front?
Mm-hmm. We have an image of that, but
just bring that up.
I mean, it meets the ordinance as far as dimensions.
Any other questions by the board? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Or there's a motion to accept plan as presented for the COA. Okay. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you very much. We look forward to having you in Blythewood, and thank you for working with us as well, based on the original design and modifications. Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we get into a discussion item that has to do with the regulation of lighted window signage. Obviously, the town has a significant input into all of the signages that we have in town. And Mr. Williamson, I think, has a list of some of the things that we currently are regulating. And this question has more to do with whether we need to move forward with a bar review of the lighted window signage that possibly could appear in the town.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you requested kind of a synopsis of what does the town regulate in terms of signage and lighting and a lot of what the Board of Architectural Review looks at. So I compiled some of that for you. So for the sign ordinance, there are regulations, of course, as you know, as terms of size, square footage, to do with on-wall signs and monument signs, as well as temporary signs. And then, of course, we have a digital sign ordinance that regulates that. And then there's a separate section in the signage ordinance that talks about illumination, and then there's something that says illuminated tubing that is attached and integral to an original architectural detail of a building is permitted if approved by the Board of Architectural Review. And it talks about the brightness of lighting, and then a lot of detail on electronic changeable copy, and then with continuing the sign ordinance, window signs particularly are considered an exempt sign, and in that section of the ordinance, it has some things that it's exempt provided that there are certain when I say exempt, it means it doesn't come to the staff for a permit. But they have to meet certain requirements. And then in a separate section of the ordinance, the Board of Architectural Review addresses landscaping and lighting, and ensuring that the lighting is consistent with the scale of the project. And then as you get into the building orientation and forms, colors are highly regulated by the board, and it says the use of bold primary colors are not permitted for building facades. And then, of course, signage is also looked at to ensure that it meets the character of the structure that y'all are reviewing. And this is for all, new development. A lot of this is.
Mr. Williamson, do we also address those signs that are up in the air with this, under this?
With this board or the sign ordinance?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a height requirement based on the zoning. So, is that your question? Is there
Well, I know in the previous administration, our philosophy was, natural horizon and dark skies. I mean, all the lights went down.
Oh, correct.
Nothing impedes the horizon in terms of signs in the air.
Right.
So are we going to address that as well?
Well, we certainly can. In fact, if you're looking for strengthening the ordinance for that,
Exactly.
I'm just, the request from the board at the last meeting was come up with some, some photos and some draft language potentially to kind of how we would regulate window signs, I think.
Can you pull up some of the examples that you're talking about?
You can see it. It's in your packet as well. It's actually the very back of the packet.
This is similar to, I think, what we faced with digital signs, with the technology that came to Blythewood and so forth, and it's something we had to deal with at the time. But the town highly regulates all signage out front. It requires that the monument signs be downlit and things of this nature, and it seems to me plausible that when you could lose effect of all the good work that you do in that regard with a storefront with a completely lighted entire window along those lines. And you can see some examples of this in other areas of Columbia and so forth. And I think we're saying that we understand that the need for an open and close sign obviously are certainly is a necessary item. I guess what we're also saying is there a need for the BAR to regulate anything beyond the open and closed aspect of signage, window signage. LED lights themselves have a tremendous, well, they're brighter than some of the old incandescent light bulbs, and they can be very obtrusive, if you can see in some of the pictures. And all it takes is a ride down, I think, Park Lane, and you can understand what the potential risk is for the town of Blythewood. So I guess the question for this board is whether or not we want to ask the town to write in an ordinance, that would give us a say-so in essentially what is acceptable. I mean,
I definitely see a need here in us regulating it, especially with these illustrations.
This doesn't mean, I think, if it comes to the BAR, it does not mean it won't be permitted, but it does give us a say-so in what possibilities are.
It definitely affects the character and the look of the town. We said years ago, I guess during the annexation debates, that there was pictures of Two-Notch Road and all the crowding and blah, 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 what we were trying to avoid. And we said at that time that we don't want our streetways, our stores to
and it has not changed. That's correct.
Mr. Chair, if you could speak into the microphone, please.
Certainly.
No, I was just, my feeling hasn't changed in all these years. nothing against the business, nothing against the owners of the business. It's just trying to preserve the character of the town, the look of the town, and why everybody wants to live here.
I'm not sure why you would want to highly regulate what you see out on the street and just totally ignore what's actually on the storefront.
I agree.
Any other comments?
I just think it's really important.
You agree?
Yes, I do.
I guess the next move is for the BAR, I guess, to recommend to the town to draft legislation that would give us input into lighted storefront window signage. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Is it the wishes of the board to have it as a certificate of appropriateness for all lighted window signs? Is that the direction?
That would be my position, say everything except for the open and close, aspect. But anything beyond open and close, it's a lighted storefront window signage, I think should require a certificate of appropriateness.
And it is for moving forward, once the ordinance is, if that ordinance is approved, that would be moving forward.
Obviously, I think anything that could be grandfathered in, certainly should be looked at in that regard. And I don't know that there's an issue with that necessarily at this point. But if there is something that needs to be grandfathered in, certainly that should be considered. So I don't know if it requires a motion or not. It's an action item, so I don't know whether you would require a vote on behalf of the board.
Well,
I think essentially, based on comments that the board has made, that it's a unanimous.
All right. If I could just work with you as a chairman to draft the language that you'd like to see, and then we can work on the process for that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Any other business? And did anybody sign up for open citizens comments?
No comments.
Yes.
I didn't bring it, but there is a historic preservation conference coming up that I think would be a lot of value that Mr. Chair, you said you were familiar with, and I will email it to you if that's something of interest, and that's an opportunity to get some the continuous education hours that actually pertain to your to what you're looking at. So
I've been to several of those. It's held out at the Department of Archives on Park Lane. They have maybe 6 or 8 or 9 different presentations during the day. You don't have to attend all of them. It certainly is in line with what our duties are at this board. I found it very informative, and I think there's a cost of $50. I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's relatively inexpensive, and
you
get at least stay there for 3 hours, and then
you do get lunch.
Check that box.
Yes, for that as well. So. For sure. But I would highly recommend it.
I will send that out, and if anyone is interested, then I'll get you registered. And
I can't recall. Do you recall the date? I think it was April, early April.
I believe so, but I will send that out tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's no open citizens comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Beating.
Efficient. Huh?
Do what?
Efficient. Efficient. Did you get that? Give us.